4-unit space?
Yeah. So like if I had the option of like, I started off buying like 4 single-family homes in California, and
Mhm.
because duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes were not accessible. But had I had the option to house hack those properties when I was in my late 20s, I would have loved to buy like a fourplex, buy
Yeah.
another 5-10% down, live in one unit, rent out the other three, or they're already rented
Yeah.
already. If you have existing tenants, that helps your debt to income ratio because they factor that
Mhm.
income in. And
Mhm.
then you move out of there, rent out that unit, and then go house hack another fourplex.
Yeah.
So you still get your privacy. You learn how
Yeah.
to be a little landlord. And if you do that 4 times fourplexes, that's 16 units.
Right.
I would have loved
Right.
to do that. I actually have one student who's actually doing that in Vegas. So
Awesome.
like
Awesome.
and I just told him, dude, like you just do this 4 times. You buy one fourplex every 2 years. In 10 years, you have 16 units in Vegas.
Yeah.
And, you're pretty set. So I do like it. But, for me, I'm just going based on like NOI now. And, obviously
Yep.
like, when you buy 2 to 4 units, your market has to have it. I just haven't seen it. And
Yeah.
the values aren't as good as I would like. So at that point, I'd rather just go to like, Oklahoma and buy like, 20 to like 40 unit apartment complexes. So I think I definitely would have started off had I had the opportunity. I was definitely looking
Yeah.
at them when I was house hacking, but there's so few of them, at least in California.
Yeah.
But if you go to other areas, and there's plenty of them, yeah, I would do it all day. I would do that for 10 loans. If you do 10
Yep.
conventional loans, W2 job times 10 fourplex, that's 40 units.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you don't even need to go to multifamily potentially if that's your strategy and you have those available.
What type of deal would it take for you to want to put 40% down? Like pull out of other like your index funds and do 40% down? Is there anything?
Yeah, great question. So I obviously have a lot of properties of equity in it, right? Which is what you're alluding to. So I could either do a cash out refinance on my 26 unit, which I doubled the value in to pull out money, or I could sell an apartment, single family home, 1031 exchange it. For me, it'd have to be another screaming deal, just like my 26 unit, where I know I could basically buy it, come in, renovate it, raise the rents, and then essentially double the value, and then not necessarily cash out refinance because I want to live off that cash flow, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then basically have another cash flowing property that forced a lot of appreciation on. So if I can get that,
Right.
I would do that 40% down, but
Well,
I'm
okay.
buying it right usually.
Yeah. Well, no, and I'm so that makes sense. Taking out equity of your other apartment buildings to put down 40% on that one to increase. So then your net equity on your portfolio is still actually going up. You're just shuffling around like where it is. What would it take? What would it take for you to pull it from the stock market? Like pull it from index funds, or pull it from cash in the high yield savings account to just put it in?
Yeah, that's like for me,
Because that's what I felt like these buy side. The reason why I'm asking is because that's what I'm trying to get in the mindset of the buy side. At least just these two guys that I talked to, of like they just thought I just like came out of nowhere of like, hey guys, like can I get your help to like plunk this down somewhere like and do this? I don't get that.
Yeah, like for me, when because I have like a bunch of index funds, like about 20% of my net worth is probably index funds between 401k and then like, Vanguard brokerage accounts. Like for me, the moment I put money in there, I kind of view it as like it's gone for some reason. But for me, it's just nice to have liquidity. And I do have a line of credit against it in case I need. So for me, I have two options. I can either just sell my stocks and then pay the capital gains tax, long-term capital gains tax, and use that for my down payment or my renovation. Or if I don't mind more leverage, I could take a line of credit against my stock portfolio to use that to buy a property, but that property better cash flow well enough to for sure cover that
Yeah.
loan payment as well. And so
Yeah.
for me, I try not to dip into it, but if it is like an amazing deal, I would consider selling it. But what I would do is if I am cash flowing, I'd probably take that cash flow and reinvest it back into like the stocks to get me to
Sure.
that good split. So for me, I kind of like liquidity because that's what kind of helps me retire. If you want to retire early, which is my goal, you do need like more in brokerage accounts and more liquid to live off that 4%, quote unquote, 4% rule. Real estate does cash flow, right? But it is a little bit more variable, even if it's paid off, right? Even if a house is paid off, we talked about this before, it's considered a bond almost, right? Like you're getting, if it's a paid off house, you get your cash flow, could be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% return on your money. Which is a good bond. But even with that, like, you're always gonna have a roof that needs to be replaced, some plumbing issues. tenant turnover, maybe a tenant stops paying you. So for me, I'm definitely like 80% of my net worth in real estate, 20 is stocks. But I think it would take a really, like I said, another 26 unit apartment complex where I know I can basically come in and I know I'm buying it right, because for me to have a screaming deal, I'm buying it half off. Like literally, I'm buying it plus renovation, which is about 10K per door. So let's just call it 100K. So whatever I'm buying at plus 200K, that's half of the value of the ARV. So that's a screaming deal, right? And I got that on my 26 unit, for better for worse, right? I'm not seeing that
which
again.
offer did they take of the three? Which offer did they take?
So for that one, I actually, for my first apartment, I didn't do my 3 offer. I didn't know about my 3 offer method, right? That's how green I was. So I just offered conventional first, but I didn't know about creative financing. So like, but I just came out with a conventional offer first. And then if you were to reject it outright, I'll just be like, hey, do you want this free and clear? Like, do you want to, get creative here?
Got it.
So that was my approach back then. But literally, I just made an offer, and he just accepted my offer, my first offer, which was like,
that's awesome.
Which was low, which was my low ball offer, right?
Yeah.
So like, and then, but like he was willing to negotiate, even though I know I got a great deal. I remember I asked for seller repair credit. So I did a full inspection, and they had a bunch of electrical panels which were recalled, which is a fire hazard. The roof needs to be replaced. There are holes in the driveways. And I just said, hey, like I got a quote from my general contractor. These are safety hazards. I think it's going to cost me 120K to fix all this. So what was I trying to do? Well, my down payment was 120K. I asked for 120K in seller repair credit. So in a sick way, what is that? That's a zero down deal.
Zero down. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's a zero down deal. But he just said, oh, well, the property is as is.
Yep.
And even if he gave me zero, I would have still bought the deal. But he ended up giving me half. He just said, hey, out of all this, what's really, really critical? And I just said, you know what? Let me ask my property manager. Let me see what they think. So it's not my opinion. And they said, well, the roof is end of life. So it's going to be hard for me to get insurance on this deal. And I need insurance to have my lender finance this.
And to close. Yeah, to close.
To close, yeah. And then number 2 is the recalled electric panels. Why are they recalled? Because it's a fire hazard. What does insurance fear? Fires. So I said, I need to get those fixed, right? So you need to give me seller repair credit, and I will allocate that money to fix this, right? So he ended up giving me 60K. So I cut my down payment in half. So I ended up putting down only like 12% down to get a multifamily deal. So like, even if I went the conventional route, I would still do that, right? Because I want to get my down payment as low as possible. So I always ask for seller repair credit. And I gave him the quotes too. I literally gave him the quote, like, hey, like this is my quote to fix the roof. I'm not making crap up. This is a legit quote. You can call them and verify it. That's the quote. So like, I'm not pulling a rabbit out of my hat and just trying to fleece you,
That's cool. What do you think about, I'm going to talk more about the like opening lines. Like, so filter on the site, when you reach out to the broker, you ask for the T12 and the rent roll. What do you think about, do you ever just send, I guess, like, it's not a good strategy to just like cold out the gate, just send the 3 offers. Like if I'm just scrolling LoopNet, looking at the OM, I just take their NOI off the OM, just run the thing. And like, so I'm trying to think like how basically the classic question of the like quality versus quantity, I guess, is like what I'm asking.
Yeah, for me, I usually know what my offer is, but I don't come out the gate in my first text, my first contact. It's more of just to understand the situation and to kind of understand like, okay, do they own it free and clear? Do they have a lot of equity in it? Why are they selling? What's their motivation? All that stuff, right? But I already know what the offer. I do. Like I actually have a list of like 10 to 12 questions that I ask if I were to talk to the seller directly. And it's just to build trust and to understand their situation so that I can craft an offer based on what they told me, right? And then I will explain to them why I created my offer this way. I'm like, oh, it just seemed like you were focused on retirement. You wanted a high purchase price or sales price, and you want a monthly cash flow still. So it sounded to me like you want to create financing. That's why I made this offer for you. Right. So like I'm gonna explain to them why I did this offer. But honestly, my first text is just like, hey, let me see your T12. Let me see your rent roll. I establish I have an apartment. I establish I'm gonna make an offer. Email me this. And I already know my offer though, but I just want to see the T12 to validate my offer. And then I get the T12, and then like the next day or within an hour, here's my offer. Here are my 3 offers. Right. And then, hey, let's talk about it. Or I just say, hey, do any of these offers appeal to the seller at all? Or I'll even say like, here are my 3 offers. Do you want me to draft an LOI, or are they just too far off that we don't want to waste each other's time? So like, I'm just very like cut to the chase. And It might turn off a lot of brokers, but like, hey, if you find the right, like if this broker that I talk to pans out, he's very direct. He's gonna bring me deals all day.
Agreed. That seems like, well, and again, because you're already targeting a certain geography, like he has a network in that area, like as is already established because you saw the listing. So
When
yeah,
he gets a pocket new
that's a good
listing,
contact.
he's gonna bring it over to me first, and he knows I'll make an offer. I already made 2 offers on 2 of his properties, right? And I even said, "Do you have any more? You have 6 listings. You tell me. You know how I think. Can one of the sellers want to work with me, right?" And now he
Yeah.
knows I can get an offer out, and he gets a quick
And
close.
what do you say to that so far? He did like did none of them pop to mind?
No, he didn't like respond yet. Maybe he's like thinking, but like I
Yeah.
did even tell him about the the kind of the 60 the 50-40-10 loan, right? The
Yeah.
seller carries
Yeah.
second, and I pitched that too. I said, dude, look, you only need to carry 40%. I can give you a higher offer price. Sure, it's gonna be 1%. If you want higher, my offer's gonna be lower. But if you
Mhm.
want the higher price, it's 1%.
Mhm.
And because my 50% loan is gonna be higher, so I want my blended interest rate to be lower, so I can make a
Right.
higher offer. And then I said, so the seller gets 60% of the money, and they can move on, do whatever they want, right?
Yep.
They carry me 40, and I'll just pay them a little interest on the money, right? And then it's a win-win situation. You get a little higher price, I get 10% down, I get a good
The
deal that cash flows.
the
That's it.
other reason why the 1% doesn't matter, like it only matters, it's not real money. It's trapped equity. They don't have the option to move it into a bank account because they don't have a deal yet. So there is not a market of 5 to 6% interest rate on that money because that money's not real. Like
Yeah,
it's trapped equity.
yeah, it's basically trapped equity, and then you're paying
Yeah.
you're deferring your capital gains tax, right? You're only paying long-term capital gains tax on the 60% that you get plus my interest payment, right? So like that's what I understand. Like you can slowly do this, and like just give me like obviously I want minimum 5 years so I can do my thing, right? Wait for interest rates to lower. Maybe I can do some renovations, raise the NOI, increase the income, lower the expense, right? And then, but if like for example the seller he wants a 2-year balloon, which is too short for me. So what I
Right.
do, and this is the hack, I will say, hey, I will take your 2-year term, but I want an auto extension if I cannot get a loan on this in 2 years.
Yes.
And most
So,
sellers are overconfident in their purchase price. So they
yeah.
always will
Yeah.
bite on that, and that protects
Yes,
you.
yes, that's a good one. Okay, I was just gonna ask you this too. So then, when I forgot the last half sentence that I left my guy with when we talked about the interest rate, talked about the price, circled all the way back to the middle, and I was like, okay, sweet. Well, that's the reason why I offered the 1 million at 4%, like with the 4% interest rate. That one's honestly my favorite. And I was like, if I just kind of left it open ended. I was like, maybe look, the plan is to run the business plan, build the ADU, bump the NOI, and cash out, refinance this, and clear them out. And maybe if we do that, maybe there's a performance bonus, and they can collect a little bit more money, like on top or whatever. Because it is, yeah. What do you think about that? Have you ever heard of that, or like writing kind of like you're kind of like making them like a partner in the profit? Like if yours honestly is more better than that, but how would you? Okay, so that's the way you jujitsu that one last thing about the term or the length. Do you have any other like one last piece of like the middle offer is like basically almost working, but they just want another 50K? Like, what would you do?
Yeah, actually, I almost sold my mobile home park with that way. Like my mobile
Okay.
home park, I basically put in $600,000 of my own money in the deal. So I was actually at one point trying to find a partner where I said, hey, you put in another 600. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
execute this value added strategy. So now we're 50-50 partners because you put in
Yep.
600, I put in 600, right? We're going to execute this strategy. And then hopefully by the end, the value is this. And then we can do either cash out refinance, we get our money back 50-50, right? Or we sell this and we split the profits 50-50.
Yeah.
So that always is an option. For me personally, I don't like to partner ideally if I don't have to.
Yeah.
But if I'm that desperate, which I was for my mobile home park, like it was on the table for me. I just couldn't find someone to play ball, right? But like for
Yep.
me, I just wanted to but my money ended up being trapped anyways. The idea of seller carry second, right? So whatever
Yeah.
money I put in the deal, most of it was still trapped in the deal, collecting 5% interest on the money. But it is a creative strategy, but I think that one takes a lot of back and forth to be like the last
Yeah.
option to make this even work at all. Usually, maybe you're better off like you can pitch it and then just follow up after that because it's hard
Right.
to like because partnerships it could be scary, especially if you don't know each other that well yet.
For sure. That's always because so when I went on a few tours for like corner stores on like off biz buy sell and stuff, I felt like that every store I went into. Like every store I went into, you could just tell that it was just old owner, like isn't just doing the low hanging fruit of just getting a better point of sale, like making the store look cleaner, making the what. I was just like, dude, I'd I'd love to just help this guy out. Like this is just an interesting thing. I'd love to just help him out. And I'm getting that same feeling again a little bit texting the broker sometimes of like, this building's honestly awesome. Like I feel bad that they aren't excited about this because it's cool.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And like you said, like you notice in this whole theme of this conversation that we're having is how flexible we are with offers. Like basically our mindset is how can we make this work and make it a win-win situation. If you got one theme out of our conversation today. So you have to have that mindset. But like I said, it takes two to tango, right? Like you need a motivated buyer and a motivated seller. We are motivated buyers, right? I'm motivated for any deal at the right price, right? Or the right terms. I'll make it 2.1 million. I don't care. I'm overpaying by 400 because I'm cash flowing, whatever, $4,000 a month. So that's kind of really my goal and the objective. So like we are one part of the equation, but we need the other person to bite, and it's gonna take a bunch of no's, right? But what's beautiful about multifamily, and you know this, you just need one deal. One deal.
Yeah.
One deal is all it takes. My 26 unit, I get another one. I probably don't need to work ever again, right? If I had two, like my 26 and they're paid off, I don't need to do anything. So that's what's kind of crazy about multifamily, and that's what makes me okay. We'll put up with this, the suck and the shit, right? Dealing with these people. Like I said, I literally, why would you not give me a counter offer on my offer, right? Like by all accounts, I should have gotten a counter offer. So I know they're not reasonable or too stubborn, and I can't make a good deal happen with someone like that, but maybe they'll come around later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it will. That part, and it's it's interesting. It's genuinely interesting. Like it's interesting problem solving.
Yeah, and that's why I share my journey. Like I'm literally active. Like literally, I was doing this earlier today, and I just got my text message, and like this is like real time. Like me making an offer, me getting rejected, and then my mindset about why the offer was rejected or why I shouldn't have been rejected. Yeah. So that's why I'm like documenting my whole journey and sharing that.
Oh, I love it. It's been super helpful. Loved finding the channel. So
yeah. So any kind of final thoughts? I know we're kind of hitting on time here, and love these conversations.
That's it, man. That's what I want to talk about. Just the offer. It's funny that the same thing happened this week. My next thing, I'm gonna hit these old loop and see what happens.
Yeah, and I like that. Like I said, the point of the LoopNet deal is to know the broker and build that relationship. If you do that, you're successful. Right? Like literally, you're successful if you built trust with that broker. But yeah, next time it's interesting. So I'll kind of leave this as a cliffhanger for the next one. So my Bitcoin video that I posted about the 0.1 did pretty well, actually. Got about 6,000, which is good for my channel. But it was interesting hearing that half the people were shitting on me because they said that I basically bought FBTC, which is like buying a car without the keys, right? And then the other half were just like, oh, it's a good start. You know, you get your feet wet, get a little exposure. So let's definitely deep dive into that maybe on the next one.
100%.
Talk on.
Yes.
But just leaving that little cliffhanger.
Yeah. No, there's the cliffhanger. And if people are randomly at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, I'm speaking on a FIRE panel about like what FIRE influencers get wrong about Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I've been loving your Bitcoin videos.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Thank you everyone for hopping on. Like I said, if you're interested in the mentorship, just click the description down below. You'll see my link tree from there. And then from there, you can send me an email if you have questions about it. But otherwise, please let me know what questions you have. We'd love to answer your questions and hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.
All right. See you guys.